What's up everyone, it's Accurate again with a new video on a piece of gear related to beatmaking and music production. In this case we're talking about the Roland TR-08 and TR-09. And in case you don't know, the TR-08 and 09 are basically smaller digital boutique versions of the classic TR-808 and the TR-909 drum machines. I can't even start to get into how important the original TR-808 and 909 actually were. All electronic music that's made today can pretty much be traced right back to the original 808 and the 909, at least in some way. I think pretty much everyone will recognize this kick drum. Or this snare drum. This hand clap. Or this classic sound of a cowbell. And that's not because these sounds are like super realistic and it sounds just like the real thing and that's why you recognize it. You recognize it because people have used the 808 and the 909 for years. However, these are not the original ones. The classic 808 and 909 were super big and bulky and heavy analog devices. And the 08 and 09 are not big, not heavy, and not analog. Just like the other products in the Roland boutique line, these can run on batteries, they have a built-in speaker, and use mini jack connections on the back as well as normal MIDI DIN ports. And these are really affordable comparing to the 808 and 909, which are just super expensive if you even manage to find a working one. So what's the deal here? They're not analog, so they don't share the same circuitry as the original ones or anything like that. But which manufacturer in the world would do a better job with replicating the true Roland TR-808 and TR-909 sound than just Roland, right? Now, I'm not an expert myself on exactly how the 808 or 909 should sound, but to me, both of these ones sounds amazing. I don't know about you, but I'm way more interested in making music with good stuff that sounds good than the exact measurement of a certain frequency in a certain bass drum on one particular drum machine. That's just not the details that I'm interested in. If you're some kind of an expert with magic ears, I'm sure there's a difference between these ones and the original. But it's not just the sound that matters when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, anyone can go online and download 808 and 909 drum sounds just like that. But to me, this is way more than that. I mean, the tactile feedback and the whole thing about actually turning a knob with your hands and stuff happens in real time. Just beats any old sample library out there. The entire experience of sequencing a drum loop on a machine like this is just way different. And this is where the similarities between these ones and the original machines really shine through. It's really different to work on a hardware sequencer like this compared to something like a DAW like Logic, Cubase, FL Studio or whatever. But I tend to come up with different kinds of rhythms and small sounds here and there in something like this than I would actually add into my normal machine workflow. And I think that is one of the really big advantages with something like this. Some settings like changing the decay, the volume or the tone of a sound is just right on the panel right here. But in order to take something out of a sequence, for instance, like the open hi-hat, then you will have to go to the open hi-hat, see which button here is lit up and just deselect it, play it again and see whatever happens. So some things are super quick and easy and some things are a little bit more complicated, but it's not the same as any DAW out there. Another pretty fun limitation here in my mind is that everything is based around a 1-bar loop. Then you can create like a part 1 and a part 2 and an A and a B section and that way make it 4 bars. But the system is always locked into 1 bar. That's what you see, 1 bar at a time, and you have to program it in a certain way. And that actually makes stuff, I don't want to say better, I don't want to say worse, just different. And that kind of helps me sometimes coming up with creative ideas. And to me, that's some really important stuff right there, because one of my main reasons to actually pick up a hardware device like a sampler, a synthesizer, or a drum machine is just the extra layer of inspiration and new ideas I get from working with new devices. And in this case, when we're talking about remakes of really classic units, You get instant access to that old school workflow that the 808 and the 909 had, but Roland also added a couple of functions here in the new ones that comes in really handy for producing music nowadays. For instance, in the original one you can't change the pitch of some sounds, but you can actually do that here because of a hidden menu. You can make the decay on the kick drum on the 08 much longer than it is on the original model. You can increase the gain level on pretty much everything, as well as using a compressor that's built into these ones. So in general they come really close to the original 808 and 909 when it comes to the functionality, the workflow, the usability, as well as the sound. Both of them have a few extra tricks up their sleeve that again are some really nice additions. Now let's take a listen to them, create a few loops here and there and see how they actually work. So first of all, let's just run through the sounds, starting with the TR-09. And the TR-08. Now I want to make a little loop on my favorite one out of these two, and that's by far the TR-08. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy the TR-09 as well, but the 08 just has something special about it, both when it comes to the sounds and the sequencer. So I want to go into the pattern clear and actually clear whatever is recorded right now. Go to my first part, making sure this one is set to 3, which means 4x4. Then I'll start the sequencer and nothing actually plays. So let's go to the bass drum, add one right here, another one there and there. Okay, just to get some sense of the rhythm, let's also add some closed hi-hats. Super straight. Add a snare on 5 and 12. Now let's go to the hand clap and add a few notes. Then I can change the hand clap to maracas, turn it down a little bit. Simple as that. What I want to do now is to actually introduce a little bit of swing by holding this button and turning this knob. Now, one really cool thing about this one that doesn't exist on the original is that you're able to put in sub-steps. So let's go back to the closed hi-hat again and see how that is programmed. So if I wanted to put a lot of hi-hats in here, I just could do that by making them all light up here. But what I'm able to do with the sub-step menu is that I can actually hold this one and get access to steps between these 16 notes right here. Let's give that a try. And especially now when I have the swing value set to 30, it sounds a little bit crazy. And for someone like me who actually likes my drums to be a little bit offbeat and a little bit funky sometime, I can actually use this function in a creative way. Let's take some of the notes out of here. And all of a sudden it turned out like this. Which actually is a pattern that you can't program on the original 808. And that's kind of cool. So now let's add a second part to this one, because this is just one bar. Let's just add another bar on top of that. Let's go to second part, hit the little step number thingy and choose 16 steps on my second bar as well. So if I stay on my second part and on the closed hi-hat, I can just start introducing notes here however I want to. Now let's add some bass drums, some snares, and maybe a cowbell. Lower volume. So a pretty straightforward process if you know what you're doing. And now I can just start introducing crazy stuff like the tom-toms. And I just ended up with this part 1 and part 2. So kind of fun, kind of old school, kind of classic, and a part of me just really loves that old school kind of electronic 80s type of feel. This is really fun. What I could do now, since I have both of them, I can turn down the volume of my closed and open hi-hats on the TR-08. Switch over to the TR-09, set the tempo to 95 BPM as well. And I want to write the pattern, so let's just start the sequencer and nothing plays. That's awesome. Change instrument to the closed hi-hat, add a few notes. What's really cool here is that you can press a button twice to make the light even brighter, and that also corresponds to the velocity being louder. That just makes it way easier to create variations and stuff. So that's a nice and simple hi-hat loop right there. Now I also want to add this really classic clap sound, so let's start the sequencer again and just punch it in. Let's also add a few low toms. And I want to be able to play these two together now. So let's change the swing value on this one to match this one. So I'm turning the swing up to 30, and let's start that one first. Now I could go on for hours just jamming out old school drums like that. But let's wrap it up. I also want to mention that the TR-08 and the TR-09 aren't the only two drum machines that Roland has put out over the last couple of years. There's also the TR-08 and the TR-08S, which are bigger drum machines and not really comparable to these ones, but still. I keep hearing a lot of great stuff about the TR-08S, which actually has sounds from the 808, 909, 606, 727 and 707, I think, maybe some more, but it also stores samples. Another really big difference between these guys and the Roland TR-08S is that the TR-08S has built-in effects that you can modify and automate in the sequencer, and that's a really powerful thing to have. On the other hand, if Roland decided to put a lot of extra stuff in here, like effects and automation and stuff, I guess I would be kind of disappointed. The 08 and 09 are supposed to be smaller versions of the original TR-808 and TR-909, and if I had reverbs and flangers and effects and stuff on these ones, they just wouldn't be the same at all. So in conclusion, the TR-08 and 09 are maybe not the most versatile and powerful drum machines out there, but they are by far the best and most affordable way to get as close as possible to the original TR-808 and TR-909. Especially considering the workflow is pretty much identical to the original ones. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching this one, and stick around on the channel for more videos that has to do with beat making, music production, home studio, gear reviews, tips and tricks, all of that stuff. And yeah, check me out on Instagram as well at Accurate Beats. Thanks again. Ha det gött.
Accurate Beats.